I guess my mic is just going to be constantly on for you. You coming through? And let me turn your sound on so I'm not talking to the voices in my head.
I'll just turn it off myself so I don't get like 7 times the echo.
Wow, tons of new Twitch subscribers. Holy crap.
Yeah, you're getting really popular, and what? You had about double the number of viewers today?
So since the last '07 show we were on, the end of March '07 show, we've been averaging about 50 people live, and it looks like we were a little over 60, almost to 70 on today's show. So that is pretty neat.
We'll see if we can get you past 100.
That would be that's man, Ashtarothi would fucking eat his hat for that, because I know he's been pissed that I've been getting better numbers than Hydrostatic.
I'm pretty sure you're going to reach that eventually, especially if we get some new blood and there's going to be some trader people in there.
Well, okay, well, to talk about schedules in the longer term, though, I'm probably going to put the show on hiatus for the summer, starting in June. We'll pick the exact week we stop, just because things tend to get a little dry over the summer. I'll keep an eye out to see if trends don't stick the way they have. If things are staying active, I'll stay active. But the summer is a great opportunity for me to go back into dev mode and get more work done. I've been crunching up a lot of side stuff to try and get stuff done, and like the last summer break we took, we got a lot of these. We got the Eve Central stuff under wraps with all of the shiny graphs, and yeah, I really want to take that time to invest in the show rather than be here every week spending that 5 to 10 hours a week live. I'd rather spend that on dev stuff. So
you're going to have goodies for us for when you come back.
That's the plan. Like, and I keep saying this on the air, which is exactly counterproductive to my goal, that I would very, very much like to launch some sort of market visualization site by Eve Vegas. But I know literally nothing about front ends, so I need to steal a bunch of stuff from K162 Space, and I need to steal a bunch of work that I'm doing at work to build profiles the way I want to. But I want you guys to be able to look into the market the way I look into the market, and even though Fuzzy Steve is stealing a little bit of my thunder and publishing the crest numbers in a rather sexy view on his site lately. I think he's probably doing a talk at FanFest, and he's probably going to show that off for FanFest. So,
and he's going to be quite busy now because
he's the only reasonable adult on the whole fucking CSM. Do you have any idea how hard it was not to be like, get it up a slide and be like, boo, CSM 11 for the fail? Oh my god, I feel so sorry for him. I love Steve, and I'm glad Gorski made it on and Hyde made it on, but the rest of that fucking CSM is a shit show. Denebola is going to headshot that shit.
If you read up on some of the stuff that Jintan has been writing, and some of the stuff that Kyle has been publishing, and then considering that Kyle just went AWOL and split from SMA, I think there's going to be some interesting developments there. So affiliation-wise, it's an interesting CSM in my opinion.
Well, yeah, since World War B has sent the Imperium to the 7 Winds, it definitely makes the CFC ballot really, really funny in retrospect. And I'm trying to get my screen up right so I can actually see the damn list, because I don't have it handy.
But I was hoping that you would comment a bit on what Quant showed at the presentation and maybe take a few questions.
So sort of. Just in case you guys missed it, that's the CSM. I am not happy about Noobman, Bobmon, Zenuria, being on and Innominate being on the council. They do not make me happy. I'm thinking of starting a death pool about who gets shit canned, who quits, and who just vanishes, to see how many we lose from the thing, and an even bigger death pool to see if Denebula headshots the CSM and we don't have a CSM 12, because I think the odds of that are non-zero.
I really doubt that's going to happen. I think it's more likely that they're going to change the platform or the method of doing the CSM than actually killing it.
If they have CSM 11, it will not look at all like any CSM before. In so much that it could be called a CSM 2.0 and not a real CSM. So, but that's I really should have Noisy Gamer on the show about that, because his meta opinions on that are particularly interesting. So instead of being a complete sad sack about how much I hate this CSM, we can talk about the CCP quant numbers. I do want to do. Ashtarothi put a bug in my head that he wanted me to write a between the lines piece for Crossing Zebras, but I really won't write for Crossing Zebras. Sorry, guys. I have opinions and reasons, and not all of them are really great ones, but that's just me. But he didn't have a bad idea for an article, was to do like a reaction video where we talk about between the lines, and talk about what's going on under the hood. I thought the interesting pieces were that the actual production margins were about 15% when you normalized everything, which is better than I would have expected, to be completely honest. And that there's 3 times, there's pi more value out there in raw material and assets than there is cash, which I thought was also an interesting metric, though I'm not versed enough in economics to really tell you what that means for the bigger picture.
Well, he should have used pie charts then, really.
Nah, I love that. Did you see anything interesting in there?
I'm more interested in the development after the taxes, because I think the margin should go up to about 20 or 25-ish in the future.
So I guess that sort of depends. I would echo the 20%. I think 20% is a decent prediction. But I think that the way people are paying their taxes now for heavy industry will mean that that may not be completely reflected in the buys and the sells. I don't think it'll be strictly 1-to-1. I think the margins across the board will get wider, but that's because the cost of business will get higher. So we'll be seeing a lot more width in the plotting, to be completely honest.
Yeah, and I think we will start seeing finally that people will be moving out of the big production hubs, and we will see that production will be moving to other locations, and especially to player-owned locations. Don't
you think that's going to take the actual new structures to be released? Because I mean, they look great, and I only got a chance to look at like the little mini trailers they put up on YouTube today. But the fact that those new Viridian Dynamics, Upwell Consortium assets are coming out, I would believe those would drive more production, more decentralized production. But I don't think that the taxes are going to be the factor for that. I think we're still going to have to wait until the fall release before we see production get more decentralized.
Well, but if you consider that it's all the marginal costs that are going up, right? You're going to get about the 15% from the profit margin, and then you're going to get about 10% from the taxes, and then you got an added of 5 to 10% from the industry index. So suddenly you've got a lot of numbers to consider, and then people might actually start being motivated to add the cost of logistics, and that might actually give us a boost in freight and freight prices.
Yeah. So the fact that freight prices are deflated, I think, is going to be the leader on that. I'm interested to see. Do you know if any of the Red Frog guys got a FanFest speaking spot this year?
They don't have one this year, no.
Okay. Because I mean, I have been a longtime fan of external logistics because you can just insure your shit. Like, seriously, if not for anything else, I use it because I'm lazy, and my time is worth more than the trucker's salary. So let them do it. But I think everyone should be using services like Red Frog and Push because they insure your stuff. You can insure your freight for like you're paying more for insurance essentially than to actually have it shipped. So
well, the problem is that they don't really have a product development yet, right? Because what they need is they need something for the below several billion industrialists, right? Because if you have to wait until you can fill an entire cargo and make up the price, then you might actually have a reduced activity in the freight.
I don't agree. The thing the hump you have to get over is that the freight costs do not exceed the net profit that you're going to make.
Yeah, but you can't do any packages below $1 billion. That makes no sense. You can't make freight. No, because then no one will really. You can't get it picked up in public, and the cost is too high if you're going to use the big ones.
Well, I totally disagree that that as long as you're exporting, so one, if you're coming from a trade hub with raw materials, those things get picked up so easy, and it doesn't matter if it's not a full billion. I've never had trouble getting a contract filled at leaving a major hub. When you're importing back into JITA or your trade hub of choice, and especially if you're doing something like JITA to your manufacturing hub, and then perhaps from your manufacturing hub to a spoke market like Torinos or Norvokaiken, those ones, yeah, you're kind of screwed for freight, and I understand the frustration there, but you also have a much smaller freight load because when you build, you reduce the actual volume by an order of magnitude in most cases. So
yeah, but the popularity of packages below $1 billion is not that high, and if you go with the standard rule in the public channel that Rita Jeter is running, it's about 1%, right, for your freight costs.
Oh, and I've always used Red Frog and PushX that are like that charge by the jump, and my only problems have been where I was optimizing the actual costs, where I had to split orders to not be full freight sizes because of the values, and I had trouble getting those out to some spokes. Like, it took an extra day, but I've never had a problem getting regular freight out of JITA to a hub, to my manufacturing hub. So Push was not as efficient. You definitely paid for the better price in response time. So I actually had a day added to most of my deliveries there when I was doing my jump freighter project. But otherwise, like, and I accounted for that because that's the kind of industrialist I am. If I cared enough, I would have moved it myself. But Tritanium, don't call Tritanium.
We're going to see a lot of development in that business if things start trending on the marginal cost.
Yeah, and the fact that Red Frog has been down this year, given the way things have been, I might be out of touch with things in the way they've worked in the last 6 months. So definitely hoping that the increased activity means that their contract load is up and their hiring is up, so that their actual throughput is up. but like I've always assumed that it would take that I'd get my deliveries next day, because of the way I set it up, and I've even set up contracts where I knew that it would take up to 5 days ahead of time, because I'm like tritanium, man. Like hauling tritanium is a bitch and a half. Fucking hate that stuff. And the like no one should have to move their own trit. That the haulers out there earn their weight by hauling trit and pyrite around, in my opinion.
I think citadels are going to be interesting when it comes to trading minerals.
In that the taxes will let you have thinner margins in a citadel.
Yeah, exactly. That means that, and it's a relatively low risk to have your volumes moved to citadels. So I think that's going to be the first things you're going to see getting traded on public citadels.
So I haven't kept my finger on the pulse of this. The Citadel trade will still show up in all of the statistics, right?
No, you will not be able to have any crest calls from citadels at all. The visibility is what's the real problem. If you do not have access to a citadel, you won't be able to see the orders at all.
Ah.
So if you can't dock, you can't see it. So we might actually see a new type of scraping service, like the old ones. Because until the crest point is open, then we have a problem. It's why it's going to be very unpopular.
I'm hoping that we don't have to go back to EMDR and what is that? Not Spastic. There's a tool that was specifically for it, like Entity's tool to scrape caches. I don't like scraping caches if we can all get away from it, because it's gross gray area, and CCP has spent the last 2 years really cutting through a lot of that gray bullshit to be more like, no, the EULA is the EULA, and no more of this, well, I've gotten away with it this long, and you can't really be sure that to ban me. And they're like, no, we can and we will, and play by the fucking rules. The team security has done a very good job cutting through a lot of that gray space, and I really hate to open that can of worms up again.
It looks like it's going to be needed. Everything that's been said in structures is that they can't do it differently.
Well, I mean, yeah, that kind of blows. It means that I can't do my analysis, which sucks. We still have to rely on JITA, and that'll be interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be a very problematic development, because a lot of the things that market people and industrialists have been talking about and asking for is still being ignored. So, and now they're very focused on getting the contracting ready, and then of course the industrial platforms, and then the drilling platforms. So I don't think they're going to be looking at any changes to tweaking the market or tweaking the services of contracts and stuff like that. So we have a little bit of a problem there.
Yeah, without the automation, it makes and I know that there is a subsegment of people who are just wringing their hands that us automatons are not allowed to have the information out of the game, and it's just that it's hard. You're stuck with, how do you make good decisions with the existing in-game tools?
Well, it's going to cost them. They're the ones that are going to pay for this lack of transparency and price finding.
And, I mean, it's up to the Citadels. In that case, where there is a fog of war, I don't expect there to be better deals at Citadels. Or if there are, they're going to be as few and far between as we see on, where you do buy orders from mission runners, that kind of thing. In that there might be a few nuggets here and there, but it's like, if there weren't great margins at a NPC nullsec outpost that has restricted docking rights. I have a hard time believing that for all of the work and effort to put up a Citadel, that we're going to see significantly better pricing inside a Citadel. Like, I can see it screwing with some of the margins, and there might be, especially if your game is in the ones and twos percents, and if you can work out standings deals to get around the fees, maybe there's some space in there for you. But I don't.
Well,
I
it's
don't
just
know if
going
I
to take
totally
too
agree.
long because if you look at the benefit from the Citadel market, right, with the lack of taxes or the extremely reduced taxes, that's still got to make up the money for the risk, and we don't know the risk yet, right? We don't know how much it's going to be a problem to have a Citadel running, how likely it is to be destroyed.
Well, and destruction is less my problem, and more the convenience factor. Like, Jita is Jita because convenience. Everything is there. It's in there in the highest quantities, at the best prices, by and large. Like, it's its own Ouroboros that it figures its stuff out. And the Citadel niche is less about putting a Citadel in Jita or in Niarja or in Uadama, and it's more about putting a Citadel in Nenemalia or in Fliet or in Old Man Star, where you want to control your space a little bit better. And I have a hard time believing that there's like the Jita special, the special Jita club that's like in New Caldari, that is in a medium Citadel and somehow is trading on the extra 1 or 2% margins, because you still have to expect that stuff is going to get out again, right? Like,
Well, if my predictions are going to hold, what you're going to see is that we're going to see someone drop a large to handle bulk trade of some of the things like raw materials, because that's worth the risk. The cost of putting up a large with a market hub and then making it public is not that high. So you could actually defend the added risk, and people can easily put their stuff in there. And since it's in high sec, you can easily do the asset safety thing without actually losing anything in the same system. So you're going to see something like off-hub bulk trade be the first thing to really hit high-sec citadels.
yeah, um, but uh, like, whoever plops that down can't be just setting the things to zero. Like, they have to be making back that investment. Like, that is an investment. Whoever
Yeah,
plops
but
that
it can
down.
be really low because if you get the right amount of people to use it, then the added benefit of having a half of a percent or 1% on something like minerals trade or moon material trade, that's going to be a lot of money, and that's going to make up the risk very fast.
I want to believe you. I want to believe, but I said similar things about Thera.
Well, Thera is it's a logistical nightmare, isn't it?
Yeah, it turns out to be a bigger pain in the ass to get in there, and it's easier to lock down than I expected. Is what it came down to. So it didn't end up being the crossroads I wanted it to be. So I guess that there are reasons why I'm wrong, and I can understand where you could be right, but like the amount of T1 minerals. Like, let's just focus on T1 minerals, because I think that those are in high enough supply to split the market and make it interesting. Like, I think that's a possible scenario. Um, you, the fact that you've given up visibility means that if you ever want to check if you're getting a good deal, you have to be checking in game, which is kind of a pain in the ass. But I can understand how you can get around it. Um,
But you're working on a benefit of what, 7% margin? That's a lot
but so
on
but
minerals.
but you're talking about the kind of people who play in buy orders anyway. Like, um, the 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 regular, so when I tell people to do their industry calculations, I always tell them to use JITA sell orders, because you want to look at the worst case scenario, and then everything else is just margin on top of that worst case scenario. And like, I don't tell most industrialists to be playing the buy order market, because it adds extra effort without adding a ton of extra margin. Unless you're really playing with a 10 billion-esque purse, I don't think it's worth the effort. Because I think that running your machine faster is of more importance than making an extra 2%. The deal is then that you have to say, okay, well, I've gone to Discount Larry's Citadel Emporium for minerals. I've put down the extra effort to go deal with all of that extra overhead, and I've added 3-4% to my margin. I can see where it could make some sense, but like, you're going to get really competitive on those buy orders if you're trying to play that game. And I don't see how you stay under the JITA parity line, especially when you're in somewhere like New Caldari where you can actually see JITA.
Well, but if you are just one jump away from JITA, right, and if Citadel markets allow you to do proper range buys, then you already have a huge benefit. That's making you the 3% that's going to be added in taxes. That means that you will most likely see traders slowly migrating to large citadels with public access, just to be able to put up the market orders and then reach NPC stations, because it's going to be based on where you're putting up the order, and that's going to be a large income for the Citadel owner.
Oh, that's an interesting hack. To mess with the range findings so that you can do that, huh? I hadn't considered that.
That's what I'm going to be doing on the first day that there's going to be something close to a hub. I'm going to be moving to that with an alt and putting up all my market orders from there.
Huh. Well, it's starting to get late. We got to get the show ended here in a second. Do you want to give any quick pimps last words before we close the stream up?
Yeah, join us on all the channels and ask any questions you have. And if you want to get into some heavy scaled markets, strike us up for some convo. We all are there for you.
This is Caleb Aranya, by the way, who runs the SCC Lounge channel. And like I said, I love having you on, mostly because we disagree, interestingly.
That's the point, isn't it?
Yeah. That the U.S. versus EU economics thing, I freaking love it. So
VHE.
Nice try. So thanks again, everybody who tuned in live. I'm going to go try and get the show at least started editing. I keep trying to carve out my Friday mornings to finish the edits. Thanks again, Caleb, for coming on the show. Support us on Patreon if you can support us. Tell all your friends to subscribe. We're at 1988 on YouTube, and I really, really, really want that to be 2000 by the end of the weekend, so please subscribe. And we'll be back next week, so thanks again.